lies, misinformation. And the thing that's hilarious is that the title of the thread is "The amount of misinformation around Champions Queue is recently wild," and it's essentially just a Dom and LS shared hate thread. We're both getting the hate together because we were streaming together, and apparently we were massively misinforming my audience, which I'll go through all these links here that I've set up before the stream in order to just show how much of a fucking liar I am, right? Because I am just a piece of shit, as was said in this 5,000 upvote #1 on Reddit post, with 89% upvote rate and 900 comments just flaming the shit out of me, LS, Nemesis, all that stuff, right? So we just attack it, I've got nothing to fucking hide. I have evidence for everything that I said, and obviously when they make one of these threads, they don't use a clip from the stream. They try to make it as ambiguous as possible. And the thing that is so strange about it is, like, I have a reputation. I'm the person that has something to lose. And this guy has nothing to lose, and he can write a complete hate thread. But I guess because Reddit perceives him as unbiased or something like that, they're just taking his word all at face value over, just the facts and the evidence that I'm about to provide right here. That's all easy to research. Like, I did this all myself because, I woke up and I wake up and first thing I see is my Discord, a bunch of people messaging me, Nemesis is messaging me, a bunch of people from Champions Queue, LS is messaging me, like, just everyone is just messaging me like, yo, by the way, like, just so you know, people are on you once again, like, it's on Reddit. And I woke up and I just got straight into it. So spent a couple hours just compiling everything. There's other examples, so I can confirm that there are currently players that are in Champions Queue, that have access to play Champions Queue, that do not meet the rank requirement that is apparently strictly enforced. And there's never been a player outside of this rank requirement that has played Champions Queue. But I have evidence for everything that I said. So let's get into it. Let's read the thread, and I'll just respond to it as we go. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it, right? After the Nemesis video a few days ago, there's been a ton of incorrect information circulating in the community. I just listened to LS and Dom again completely misinform their audience on stream, so wanted to clear a few things up. Love to have the clip here so you can see exactly what I said. And what you'd realize is that he is literally conflating different things that I have said into one statement and then beating down that one statement. Okay, so anyways, since February 25th, there have been 0 Herder D1 Masters Collegiate one-trick players in Champions Queue. Now, those are two different statements. There was Masters players, and players that have dropped to Diamond that are still allowed to play in Champions Queue. That's one statement. And there's also one-tricks that have been in Champions Queue. Those are two different statements that he is turning into one statement to, like, try to make it more pinpoint. So it's like, oh, well, if that guy was a Diamond 1 player or a Masters player while they're in Champions Queue, they weren't a one-trick. It's like, no, I said two different things. You're combining it into one because you can't actually fight both points on their own. But I have links. I have op.gg's. I have tier graphs. These things don't lie. Anyway, let me say that again. 0. Get to that later. There have been 0. Let me say it again. Let me say it a third time. 0. Dom just told his 6K viewers this evening that there is a D3 amateur one-trick pony in Champions Queue. Number one, I didn't say that. I said there was an amateur one-trick pony in Champions Queue. And I said there's a player that fell to D3 who is an LLA sub. An LLA sub that is available in Champions Queue. Shut the fuck up, LS, by the way. Shut the fuck up, you misinformation spreading clown dog. Okay, all right, Jesus. There is a minimum active Grandmasters requirement, and this has been actively enforced since February. This is like the first lie. There is not a minimum active Grandmasters requirement that has been actively enforced since February. At the beginning of each split, they see if you are in Grandmasters or not, but it is not enforced strictly, as you can see by Fatorix. So for clarity, I have the exact date. Hold on, let me get the exact date that Split 3 started. So Split 3 of Champions Queue started on July 26th. So here's Fatorix, who is an LLA player. He is not an active LLA player. This is also a distinction that needs to be made that he keeps on saying, which is another lie that he does, where he is a sub LLA player. July 26th would be somewhere around here. And he is Masters 286 peak. And the split ended on, I was going through August. So August 14th, which is in the middle here, he actually dropped to Diamond 1. So he was Diamond 1 at a period of time while playing. And this is not just like he decayed. He's actually playing games, by the way. He's playing games And you can see the tier average of his games is Diamond 2, Diamond 3. It is literally where he is in solo queue. He is a negative win rate, 47% win rate, 800 game player who was at Diamond 1 at a period of time while being permitted to play Champions Queue in Split 3 of Summer. That is a fact. This is a fact. There seems to be a lot of outcry around amateur academy players compromising potential game quality. The people who are upset about this are completely missing the reason Champions Queue was created. This is twofold: to provide a better practice environment for pros/visiting pros, and to foster and develop NA talent in said environment. You cannot develop the promising amateur collegiate players, nor will they have the opportunities for exposure if they are excluded from Champions Queue, even if it's a slight compromise on the game quality. Champions Queue was not created for content creation, although it provides plenty of content, or for co-streamers to complain when Faker gets matched with amateur NA talent occasionally instead of 4 players from TES, JDG, self-explanatory. So this is just a shot at Casual and Double F because they were like spectating the Faker game. I actually didn't co-stream any of these games, but he only played 2 games, so it wasn't like it was this. I mean, the way it's written is occasionally he played 2 games. One of them he was matched with amateur players, and like TS and JDG don't even play Champions Queue, so that wouldn't even be the argument anyway. It's like what people would argue is that Faker should be matched with like minimum like academy players and like LCS players or players that are on other worlds teams. That should be the minimum, and not like players that are amateur one tricks. By the definition, one trick. So here's the player I was referring to as the Rengar one trick. This is Regidis. He actually won a game, so he got a little bit higher rated. But by the Riot rules, so I can go back in history and I can give you a example for myself about what the one trick rule really is. So back when Scouting Grounds was a thing, I was the 4th highest eligible jungler on the solo queue ladder in season 8 for Scouting Grounds. And the reason why I was not able to actually get the invite, I wouldn't have accepted the invite obviously because I want like other players to get it, but I was supposed to get an invite. I was just gonna like post it on Twitter for a meme. And the reason why I was denied the invite is because in one of the splits, it was done like in every 2-week splits, in one of the splits, I played more than 33% of my games. So I played 5 out of 14 games on Graves. And in order to not qualify for the one trick rule, you had to have less than a 33% play rate on a certain jungler per split. If you had 33% play rate on more than one jungler, or like, sorry, if you just had it on one jungler, more than 33%, they would deny you and because you were deemed as a one trick. This is a player who is a Rengar, in my opinion, one trick. Like, people will argue the semantics of like, what is a one trick? The way I use one trick is like, you are a main, you are significantly better on that champion than anyone else. Doanel, Dantes, as you guys know him, he is a Hecarim one trick. That is how people talk about him. But he actually only has 40% of his games at a higher LP than this on Hecarim. He actually plays like other champions as well. So this guy has over half of his games on one champion in Rengar. And if you go to UGG, not sponsored by the way, and you see how much LP he's gained, he's actually losing LP on a lot of the other champions he's playing, and the places where he's gaining his LP for the year is primarily only on Rengar. He is a Rengar player. He was the guy that was on Faker's team that was running it down on Trundle that everyone was complaining about. So these are 2 separate things. I said that there was one tricks, and then there's also like players that just don't meet the rank requirements that are subs on LLA teams, which we have evidence of right here. Okay, Champions Queue has been extraordinarily consistent in its invite policy thus far, keeping in mind the point above around Champions Queue being built for NA. Champions Queue has only ever permitted amateur, collegiate, academy, and LCS, and now active pro players from around Worlds qualifying regions. This is once again a lie. As we can see here, there's LLA players and LLA subs that are allowed to join Champions Queue. Here's Fatorix for Estral Esports, and if you look at his match history, he is a sub, and he did not play 1 game in LLA. He did not play 1 game in LLA the entire time. Right, guys? Played no games in LLA this entire time where he's being listed as an active player. If you're a substitute and you're never playing the games, you should have to meet the rank requirement of Grandmaster in order to play. That is my statement, and that is what I stand by, and that is what I said on the stream. It also allowed former pro players / free agents during its very first split that were all, without exception, professional LCS players at some point less than a calendar year before Champions Queue was launched. That's another lie. I don't even know how many lies we're up to at this point. This is just another lie. When did Doublelift retire? This is when Travis made his announcement video about Doublelift retiring, or my reflections on his legacy. November 25th, 2020. What do we have here? This is actually his link that he has in the thread. Monday, February 7, 2022. That doesn't look like a calendar year. It's almost like that isn't a calendar year. So he wasn't an active pro within a calendar year from when Champions Queue launched. He retired at the same time as Nemesis retired, or like Nemesis stopped playing pro, whatever you want to say. Like, I don't really care about the term retirement. Both of them played in that World Championship. I mean, technically Nemesis went further in the tournament, so like Nemesis played games after Double F10 already been eliminated, going 0-6 in group stage. But the point is that they did not play within a calendar year. So if like Nemesis is not being allowed to play because he's traveling, there's just rules that are different for different people. I mean, the way this guy says, I mean, it's a very convincing like way to say just a lie, right? He says it's also allowed for in his first split that we're all without exception, that we're all, without exception, professional LCS players at some point less than a calendar year before Champions Queue launched. I mean, it's just like straight up incorrect. Like that just takes 1 minute of research. No one in this thread even mentioned this part. Like, whatever, bro. Like, I guess no one wanted to mention this part of it, but I think that would be the first thing that's like, wait, that doesn't make sense because he retired in 2020 and then like started in 2022. I don't know. Like, it doesn't really add up. Anyways, all these players, Double F, Pobelter, etc., also expressly stated their intention to return to pro. Hence, they qualify as potential NA talent at the time and were grandfathered in. The Champions Queue invite guidelines have never included ex-LCS talent from 2+ years ago, nor individuals who obviously do not intend to ever play professional in NA again. Is the current CQ perfect? No. Are those who are crying unfair justified in doing so? Also no. Wrong. This system was built for pros or aspiring pros, either in NA or visiting NA, and a result of extremely hard work from Riot NA/LCS folks. It's not for personal streamer revenues or content farming, although people are having a lot of fun co-streaming, which is great. So here are the threads. I mean, dude, you know what's so sad is like he literally has the evidence here to contradict his statements, but like no one clicks the links, I guess. And then he says, edit. Hey guys, some specific content creators have angrily responded on Twitter. I didn't angrily respond on Twitter. I simply stated, time to address Reddit lies once again. This is literally the player I was referring to. So there's no point in this where I'm angry. Like, I am very calmly addressing the lies of Reddit. I have an exclamation point. Maybe that's what he's interpreting as anger, but it's not anger. Just me simply stating everything that I'm showing you guys here. Boom. Okay. So I wanted to put all the information out there for the public. Here's the SS of the mentioned D3 players, op.gg. Hate that streamers are sending so much negative publicity his way, but it's important for clarity. So part of the reason why I'm willing to out this player outright and not other players that like seem to be nicer is because I've played with this guy in solo queue, and this guy's perma-flaming everyone the entire time and bragging about being in Champions queue. And I remember asking, I was like, wait, is this guy really in Champions queue? During the last split, because he was literally like, when I started my grind, like this is my account right now. When I started my grind, I was playing in D1 master games and I was playing with this guy and he was flaming everyone every single time. And I was just like, what the like, how could this guy be in Champions queue? He kept on like flaming supports and being like, man, it's so hard going from Champions queue to playing with these dog supports. Like he was just being a fucking asshole to everyone. So I don't feel bad. I have no remorse in outing the fact that he simply did not meet the rank requirement at any point during the split. So here's another thing. People told me that the way that you're supposed to be assessed is that you need to be Grandmaster at the beginning of the split. So it's not even done consistently, because if it was done consistently, at literally any point in the entire split, he would have been removed, right? Any single point in the entire split, he would have been removed. But even at the start, he wasn't checked, because he was master. So this guy should never be in Champions queue. And if you look at the results, so here's Champions queue for that split. He had the second most games in all of Champions queue and the lowest win rate by far out of everyone that has close to this amount of games. 36% win rate. There's no one else in the 30s, bro. There's no one else that's got a 3 in front of their, like he played 129 games. He had a 36% win rate. At some point, like we have to start being like, hey, I think that something up did happen here. There is some mistake here. So it's not like I'm just like arbitrarily like picking out one guy who played one game and flew under the radar. This was literally the second most active player in all of Champions queue, and he had no right to be in it at any point. All right, anyways, important for clarity. As you can see, the only split during which he was not Grandmasters was the final split before Worlds. In other words, he relied on his status as an active LLA pro. He bolds active LLA pro, but he was not an active LLA pro. We've seen here, he played none of the games. He is not active. He is a sub. He is a sub on an LLA roster who gets 0 playing time. And even though he's getting 0 playing time and presumably not participating in all the scrims, he has time to grind his account. He has hundreds of games, 800 games. So, you know, let's say, I mean, he's not even playing that much recently. So let's say that, you know, you take 200 games off this and he had 600 games and he's not in GM. He's not in GM. Bro, I'm in GM. I'm 85 years old. I'm still in GM. How is this guy not in GM? How is he playing Champions Queue all the time and not being able to maintain the rank? Why does that not apply to him because he's a sub? He is a substitute. So another lie. All of whom are invited to Champions Queue for less than a month before being disqualified for the current Champions Queue. It wasn't less than a month. It was the entire split. He spent that time, the entire split. Again, at no point was there ever an active D3 player in Champions Queue. You can argue whether LLA players should be invited to Champions Queue, but that's a valid discussion for a different time. Cherry picking one player out of hundreds in Champions Queue to drive false narratives around selection process is not. Well, man, I don't know what to tell you guys. Everything I said, I have proof for. We've showed his win rate. We showed how he was a negative influence to Champions Queue. We showed that he was not an active player. We showed that he was not meeting the rank requirement at the time, that he was a sub. We showed that there was a one trick by the definition of playing more than 33% of your games on one champion in Champions Queue. Recently, this was in World's Champions Queue. For me, dude, I don't know why I have to read this Reddit thread. Like, this is just so weird. When you look at this, it's 5,000 upvotes just flaming Nemesis, myself, and LS for not lying. Like, what did I do wrong in this situation? I stated a fact that I have evidence for. Then you just wake up to a hate thread where a bunch of people are just like dogpiling and just trying to like just discredit you, be like, oh, well, Dom's always been a piece of shit. This guy's scum of the earth. Oh, that guy's a liar. Like, all this type of bullshit. And it's just okay. And like, dude, obviously I've had Reddit threads for years, so it's not gonna ruin my day or like super negatively affect me. But I just feel like some of this should be verified. Like, he should at least use the clip, like, not just say what we said, use the clip of what we said, and then prove why it's wrong. He literally just, this is his sources, bro. He literally just links articles. This is the equivalent. I saw this in the thread, and this is true. This is like the equivalent of like somebody just like linking a law, you know? It reminds me of like the Texas, like the Texas thing where people were talking about the abortion laws, and this is not going to be like about politics, but people were like, oh, what happens if somebody gets, and the response was like, well, rape is illegal. It's like, okay, so like, because something is like stated in the rules is it should not happen, it's just not going to happen. Like, what the fuck? Like, okay, like, sure. I mean, they might say that there's no like master players in it, but there were master players in it. It just is what it is. There were master players in it. I don't know what to say. Hopefully this gives you some context as to why I said what I said. And like, I guess I'll just make this into a video or something, put it up on my channel. So at least there's like a collection of this information. Why do these skinwalkers have a hate boner for me? Well, I mean, I think it's mainly because I used to like, so I'm somebody who flamed people in solo queue, like when I streamed mainly gameplay. And because I flame people in solo queue, I'm like just allowed to be just lied about. Like, people just want reasons to flame me now. So it doesn't matter if it's like valid or not. But because I flamed people in solo queue before, which apparently none of these people have ever done, right? I'm like the only person that flamed people in solo queue, surely. I'm just like allowed to be slandered. People are allowed to just lie about me, flame me, whatever. Because I'm no longer a person to them, right? I'm just like somebody who they can direct their hatred towards. But I mean, I guess that's it. I think that we addressed everything here. I think there's anything else that we need to say, and hopefully that addresses all the concerns. Perfect.